You crack open the cellar door and push past cobwebs to a shelf that hasn't seen light since your grandmother stocked it. Buried behind rusted cans is a glass jar of honey, dark as mahogany, crystallized into a solid block of amber sugar. The lid is sealed with wax older than you are. Your brain whispers 50 years. Your stomach whispers poison. You scoop a spoonful, pause, and run the one test that distinguishes eternal food from a quiet tomb of ancient spoilage. Most people would toss the jar. You will eat from the same pantry that fed pharaohs. The 30-second test to know if ancient honey is still edible is not a myth. It's chemistry, and it takes less time than brewing a cup of coffee. Subscribe so you never miss this. Stay for the second check, the one that takes 5 seconds and uncovers the only thing that can actually make honey dangerous after 5 decades. The systemic lie printed on every jar is the expiration date. The honey industry, the grocery conglomerates, the regulators, they all stamp a best-by date on a substance that was pulled from 3,000-year-old Egyptian tombs and found perfectly edible. Honey is not a food that spoils. It is a supersaturated sugar solution with a pH between 3.5 and 5.5, too acidic for bacteria. The sugar concentration is roughly 80%, with a water activity so low that any microorganism that touches it has the moisture sucked out of its cells through osmotic pressure until it collapses and dies. Honey is antimicrobial, antiviral, and self-preserving. The expiration date is a legal formality, not a biological reality. But there is a catch. Honey's immortality has a single fatal vulnerability. And if that vulnerability was breached 50 years ago, the jar in your hand is not golden food. It's a fermented, toxic mess. The test finds the breach. The first check. The visual purity scan. 10 seconds. Hold the jar up to a light source. Natural sunlight is best, but a flashlight works. The honey will be dark. That is normal. Over decades, the sugars caramelize through the Maillard reaction, the same chemistry that browns a seared steak. Honey darkens from pale gold to deep amber to near black. That is not spoilage. That is time painting the sugars. Look for 2 things: mold on the surface and bubbles actively rising through the honey. Mold means moisture somehow entered the jar, and the top layer diluted enough to support fungal growth. If you see a fuzzy white, green, or black mat on top, the jar is compromised. Do not scrape it off and eat underneath. The mold has sent microscopic hyphae deep into the honey, and mycotoxins have diffused into the sugar matrix. Discard the entire jar. Active bubbles rising from the bottom mean fermentation. Wild yeasts found enough moisture to wake up and are converting sugar into alcohol and carbon dioxide. Fermented honey smells like sour wine or vinegar. It will not kill you, but it tastes foul, and the alcohol content can cause digestive distress. If the honey is clear of mold, still, with no rising bubbles, it passes the visual scan. 10 seconds. You are not done. The second check. The sniff. 5 seconds. Unscrew the lid. If it's sealed with wax, crack it with a butter knife. Bring the open jar to your nose and inhale deeply. Edible honey, even 50-year-old honey, smells unmistakably of honey. Sweet, floral, slightly woody, maybe a hint of molasses from the caramelization. It will never smell sour, sharp, or like nail polish remover. Sour means fermentation. Sharp or chemical means the jar was contaminated with a cleaning solvent or pesticide that should never have been stored near food. If the aroma is clean, sweet, and warmly familiar, you pass the second check. Your nose has been trained since birth to reject spoiled food. Trust it. If it smells like honey, it is honey. The third check. The crystallization reality. 15 seconds. The honey is a solid block, or it's grainy with crunchy crystals. You might think crystallization means spoilage. It means purity. Real honey crystallizes. Glucose separates from the water and forms solid crystals. The more pure the honey, the faster it crystallizes. The fake corn syrup blends stay liquid forever. A crystallized jar is a certificate of authenticity, not a defect. You do not need to boil it. You do not need to microwave it. Place the sealed jar in a bowl of warm water, no hotter than 110 degrees Fahrenheit, and stir occasionally. The crystals dissolve slowly. If you overheat honey above 140 degrees, you destroy the enzymes in the delicate floral volatiles that make it medicinal. You turn living food into dead syrup. Warm gently, or scoop the crystals straight onto a spoon and let them melt on your tongue like hard candy. The gritty texture is a guarantee your honey was never cut with corn syrup. Here is the reality the expiration date industry does not want you to internalize. Honey is not a food that expires. It is a supersaturated, acidic, antimicrobial archive of flower nectar that has fed humans for over 8,000 years. The jar in your grandmother's cellar, the one crystallized into a dark amber brick, is almost certainly safe. The 30-second test: look for mold and bubbles, sniff for sourness, and recognize crystallization as purity, is all you need. If it passes, you are not eating spoiled food. You are eating from the same reserve that the pharaohs buried for their journey into the afterlife. The bees made it to last forever. You are just checking that the jar did its job. Now drop a comment and tell me this. Walk to your pantry. Do you have a jar of honey that you've been ignoring because it crystallized and you weren't sure if it was still good? Write the age of that jar in the comments. If you don't know the age, write ancient. Then go warm it gently and taste what a decade or two actually does to a spoonful of sugar. And in the next video, we are cracking open the second immortal food in your pantry: the salt block that has been sitting in the back of the cabinet since the Cold War. How to test it, how to store it, and why it will still be seasoning your grandchildren's food when the grid is a distant memory. I'll see you there.